Roaring into theaters this weekend, it's Chain Reactions. This is a documentary about the Texas Chain Saw Massacre, the classic horror film, its legacy, its influence. So if you like process, we just talked about Megadoc, which is about megalopolis. This is also kind of about process. If you like films about filmmaking. Alonso, what happens here?
I admire this movie so much. It's got a classic, primal horror movie feel to it.
This is kind of an essay film from Alexandre O. Philippe. We talked about his movie Lynch Oz recently. That was a movie about one film's impact on a filmmaker's entire career. And this time, this is a look at how one film impacted 5 different careers. We begin with comedian Patton Oswalt sharing his insights about the film, but we also get directors Takahsi Miike and Karyn Kusama, author Stephen King, and critic Alexandra Heller-Nicholas. And they all have very distinct memories, not just of the power of Tobe Hooper's, indelible film, but a lot of them are very specific about when and how they saw it, whether it was a grainy VHS cassette or, projected in a sort of creepy theater. And all, in all these cases, they've really done a great job of sort of visually matching what people are talking about. So when Heller-Nicholas talks about seeing the original Australian VHS, which came out like a decade later after the film had been banned by the Board of Censors several times. It was like a washed out kind of, duplicate of a who knows what. And so the color was very yellow. So you see a side by side of like the yellow version of that Australian VHS versus what the film really looks like. But then she talked about how the yellow made it something that felt comparable to films like Wake in Fright and other sort of Australian thrillers of that moment that really accentuated the hot sun, and we get a lot of discussion about how Hooper uses the sun, whether it's those sunspots that you see in the opening credits or the last shot of Leatherface, in the morning light futilely swinging around his chainsaw. They talk about the film itself and the power that it has, but they also talk about the larger ideas that are explored within it. I think Karyn Kusama has really fascinating insight on what the film is talking about and what it has to say about the moment in which it was made, the political moment, the cultural moment. And, when you hear these 5 really intelligent, articulate, insightful people talk about this movie, it really just sort of solidifies why Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a movie that still matters so much and has been so influential and is such an important piece of American film art.
Yeah, I looked at this through totally different eyes over and over again, depending on who was talking. And they do a great job here of not just matching what they're saying to the shot in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but also like comparing it with things as, disparate as Nosferatu.
Days of Heaven.
Yeah, so many movies that I never would have thought to make that connection. But in terms of like matching shot for shot, like a very similar camera push or the pace of a certain moment. And Patton Oswalt in particular was talking about the slowness of Nosferatu and how that exists in Texas Chainsaw Massacre as well, and how, that it creates such suspense in there. And just the idea of, where this is, when this is. It's Texas in the 70s. It's a farmhouse. It's a place that should be wholesome. It should be America. And the idea that something terrifying and menacing is behind that door says a lot about, the moment in time in our country. Without banging you over the head with that, obviously. No. I mean, so much horror is about something else.
Sure.
But this is doing that in a way that, in retrospect, was so relevant and remains so.
Yeah, it's funny because we were just talking about Megadoc, and we both said that it doesn't necessarily make us think any differently of Megalopolis, but at least it's interesting to sort of delve into the process of it all and to be a fly on the wall and the intricacies of that very complicated production. But I think this is a movie that made me immediately want to watch Saw again and be like, oh, okay, yes, that and the thing because I have to admit, viewers of this program know I'm a big chicken when it comes to horror movies. I put off seeing this film for a very long time. I was in my 30s, I think, when I finally watched it. And the things that surprised me the most about it was that, one, it's a lot less bloody than you would think that it is.
Right.
And B, it's often funnier than you think it would be, although it is still horrifying at moments. And they really, these people that are being interviewed here all kind of will dig into specific moments. And, one of them is even like, I look at that over and over again and I can't figure out how they got the girl on the hook. Like, I'm sure it's just some trick shots and, it's edited in a way that we don't see that she's being strapped in or whatever, but the way it flows together, it just looks like they did it,
In the 70s, right? There's no CGI.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I think that this operates as a tribute to a movie that has been in the, certainly it's been in the collection at the Museum of Modern Art for decades now. But I think acts as a way to sort of, there is, I think, always going to be a school of film snob that's like, oh, horror, like it's so visceral, and it's just like going for the cheap impact and blah blah blah. And so I think if you want to sort of explain to somebody, no, this is why this genre exists, this is what this genre is capable of, you could not do better than having Stephen King and Karyn Kusama explain to you why they keep going back to the well of this movie over and over again and are constantly sort of finding new insight in it.
Yeah, I enjoy Stephen King's insights quite a bit, since he's the master of horror himself. Yeah, this was like endlessly eye-opening and like wow, and things I wish I'd thought of, but there's so much insight in here, and it's so creative. And I love these kinds of video essays. I loved his Lynch Oz, and in terms of like making connections between things. And it's like the kind of conversation you would have with friends late at night, like this guy does it so well. And it's gotta be so hard to edit this, it flows so beautifully. It looks so seamless.
Yeah. A quick salute to fair use, because I think that really makes movies like this a lot more possible, because you don't have to chase down the rights to every single clip that you want to throw in there. So, it's great that there's an understanding in a legal sense that, if I put in 5 seconds of Days of Heaven to illustrate this point, I'm not ripping off Terrence Malick, I'm using it to educate and to elucidate something here.
Yeah. I love the Takahsi Miike story of how he ended up seeing this movie for the first time. That's very funny.
And to think like what, talk about a path not taken. What kind of movies would Takahsi Miike have made had he not seen, Texas Chain Saw Massacre at a formative age, it's riveting.
Cool. So what's your number then on Chain Reactions?
I'll say an 8.5. Why not? Yeah, it's great. People should see it.
Yeah, I'll say 8.3. So Chain Reactions is in a few cities this weekend, going wider after that. So go look and see if it's playing near you.